Hey everybody, how's it going? I am Sethum, and in this video folks, I am going to be showing you everything you need to know about breeding super dinos through mutations, of course. So if you folks enjoy this video, please do not forget to support me and the channel by hitting that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are new for more similar content if you haven't already. And if you have just subscribed, why not check out some of my other videos here on this channel? Who knows, you might just enjoy them. And you might as well hit that bell icon so that you get notified when I upload new content. Also, for those interested in hanging out with me, you can always find me on the Sethtopia Discord. Links to this can be found down below in the video's description, as well as in a pinned comment. So, with all that out of the way, let's get to the video and the topic of the video. Through breeding, you can obviously obtain mutations, and if you go down the route of selectively breeding to obtain specific mutations, either in stats or in colors, but I will be covering both of them in this video. However, let's say stats, and let's use the Rex as an example. You can obtain some ridiculously powerful Rexes. So how is that achievable? Well, for that, we'll need to start with the basics, and I will also, of course, aim this video at people who have never done any breeding and so therefore have very little understanding of how it works. Okay, so we're going to start from the beginning, and the idea behind breeding is to breed a pair, so that would be a male and a female, to obtain a offspring. Now, through selective breeding, you can end up obtaining a super Rex or a super dino with stats that will absolutely terrify your foes. Obviously, this is done through the selective breeding of specific stats with the intention of obtaining mutations, which then pushes up those specific stats. Topic which I will obviously cover later on in this video. So, how powerful can a Super Rex be? Well, we all know what this guy is, right? I mean, if you've been playing Ark long enough, you will have certainly bumped into it or heard stories about a Giga, and specifically Wild Giga, going into somebody's base and completely trashing it and all that, and how terrifiably, awesomely, ridiculously strong these creatures are. They're basically a stay away from creature unless you intend to tame it, and very few people ever dare to take it on, no matter how big or small it is in terms of level, as they are ridiculously powerful. Well, what if I were to tell you that a properly bred Super Rex will be that powerful that it would quite literally make a level 150 Wild Giga shit its pants? Yeah, that's right. If you do it right, you will obtain a Rex so powerful that even a Giga will not stand in its way. And that is absolutely, totally achievable. So that is what this guide is about. And for that, I'm going to start from the very beginning so that even the new players can understand how to breed super dinos. So the very first thing that you will need to do is you will need to find yourself a pair of dinos that have very high stats after tame in a specific area. So for example, if you want to breed a Rex or an army of Rexes to fight on the bosses, you will want a male that has a lot of hit points as well as a female with a lot of damage. Now, obviously, from this, you will breed them over and over again until you get a baby that has both stats. So that will mean, of course, you will end up with a baby that has both the HP as well as the damage. Once you do that, you will do it again until you obtain a pair of babies with those specific stats. So obviously, you will need 2 babies that are of opposite genders before you start the process that has both of the good stats. Of course, this is what everybody says, and it is totally true. However, sometimes can be a little bit different, as you will see in a bit. So in theory, when you breed 2 dinos of opposite genders, you have a 70% chance of obtaining a dino that has the best stats that has been transferred to the baby. Obviously, that is in theory. However, practically, people have been saying that realistically speaking, there is a 55% chance, and I totally agree with that. So of course, while I am here, might as well cover the topic of distribution of points that the game does to wild dinos. So for example, let's take the Rex, as that is what I am using as an example for this particular video. Any Rex at level 1 will have the exact same stats. These are known as the base stats for that creature, and no matter how many you look at, nothing will be different in terms of stats, obviously. As the dino levels up, the game will attribute points equivalent to those levels to random stats that the creature has. So for example, if you find a 150 T-Rex, that means that the T-Rex will have leveled up about 149 levels, and that means it will have had 149 levels put into random stats. These are completely random, and while there is a bit of balance there, sometimes you will get a creature that has had more stats put into a specific stat. So say for example, health or damage. These are the ones that you will be looking for when taming, especially if you want to breed them for those specific stats. Now this may take you a long time to find, but once you do, that is one of your base dinos for creating a super army of dinos. Obviously you'll need to bear in mind the role of that dino. So for example, a Daedon, you will want a Daedon to have more points attributed to its food, as they will consume food when healing. So obviously that is all randomly generated. Obviously there is another part that happens, and once you tame it, depending on your taming effectiveness, the dino will gain a certain amount of levels, which again the game will use those levels to randomly distribute points in the dino's stats. These are again random, so whilst you did find, say for example, a dino that was wild and had good stats in health, the game may decide to put most of those points in weight or food, which kind of is a bit of a bummer, but it does happen. So getting that first dino to start off with can be a bit of a pain. In an ideal world, of course, you will have gained a pair, so that means a male and female. However, we don't live in an ideal world, and sometimes you can end up in the same situation that I have here, where I have two males, which both have good stats. One has over 10,000 in HP after tame, and the other one has an amount that is astonishing in melee damage. So that is over 510%. Obviously, that 510% is ridiculously rare, and it's kind of like winning the lottery. So you'll probably be looking for around 400% in melee damage if you want to have a realistic expectation of what you can find. That in itself will, of course, be a stupidly ridiculous dino, just like this one with the 510. So in a real world as well as in the game, you cannot breed two males to get a baby, so you will need a female in this concoction, which kind of does complicate the situation. This is why I'm showing you guys, so you can learn from this particular tutorial. Of course, in the next step that I'm going to show you, that does also apply if you do have two females that have really good stats. You just need to change the genders around. So let's get to the next step then. So in that case, what you want to do is you want to breed that male with the highest stat, your choice. In this case, I will use the HP male as an example and breed it with one of your most powerful females, so that you get a female that has the powerful stats transferred from the female, along with that super powerful and rare stat that you are after, in this case HP. This will obviously result in a first generation HP female. Once you have that first gen female that has had the HP transferred onto it, you will then breed it with the second male that has the ridiculous amount of damage, and you will do this over and over again until you now obtain a pair. So that'd be a male and female, one that has the best of both worlds. So you'll want both the HP as well as the damage to transfer over to the baby. So this would be then your second generation of Rexes. These will also be now the base Rexes for your breeding, and you may want to have 2 pairs. As a recommendation, 1 is good enough, as you will always come back to this base pair when you begin breeding this base pair to obtain mutations in the specific stats. So for this example, it would be HP and damage. With your base pair now ready, you can begin breeding that pair to obtain mutations. Obviously, for this, we need to understand how mutations occur and what they are. First things first, so once you have opened the Dinos inventory, in the middle window at the bottom, you will have a Show Ancestries button. Click on that to access the ancestry trees, which will show you the mutations that have occurred. Mutations can be passed on either through the matrilineal or patrilineal. That means they come either from the mother or the father. Each of these matrilineal or patrilineal tree lines will have a total number of 20 mutations. That means it can only have 20 mutations that are effective or will take effect. Of course, you can have more than 20 mutations, but anything beyond that will be a passive mutation that will not take effect. So you will want to not exceed the 20, as it does not help you with absolutely anything whatsoever. You can, of course, also breed your dinos in such a manner where it will have the mutations passed on both from the father as well as from the mother. So that means they will show up both in the patrilineal as well as in the matrilineal. In the case in which you decide to breed a pair that have matrilineal and patrilineal mutations, what will happen is that those mutations will be transferred over to the baby. So the baby will have gained mutations both from the father and the mother, so it will have a total of 7 mutations. Very important to note here is that if, for example, the patrilineal only had mutations in damage, and for example the matrilineal had the mutations both in damage and HP, they will not stack the damage mutations. It will only take the highest mutation in that damage. However, the patrilineal mutations will still be added, as the number there where it says 2 out of 20 mutations, that is only a counter and does not keep track of what mutation occurred where in the past. It is merely a counter, and once it reaches 20, anything beyond 20 will not be an active mutation, so therefore it is pointless to breed beyond that. You can, of course, have these mutations stack on a single line, so that would be either the matrilineal or patrilineal, and the way you would do that is the offspring that you have bred will have, as I said, mutations in both the matrilineal and patrilineal line. You would then take that baby and breed it with your base dinos, the ones that I showed you at the beginning of this video, the ones that do not have any mutations in their ancestry. And so what would happen is it would gain the mutations from the parent, whether it's dad or mom. So if it's from the mom, all the mutations would stack up in the matrilineal, and if it was the dad that had the mutations, it would all stack up in the father's mutations, in the patrilineal mutations, as the father passed the mutations on, or in the previous example, the mother, which would have passed the mutations on. You can, of course, also use this method to transfer the mutations from patrilineal to matrilineal, and you'll want to do that simply because you will want to breed your base Rex with a mutated female, or the other way around, as a male can breed with multiple females, and by using this method you will of course increase the amount of eggs that you will get, and therefore increasing the amount of babies and the chances of getting a random mutation in a stat that you are after. It is also important to know here that when a dino has gained a mutation, it will have gained 2 more levels stacked to its previous levels, so that means it will be 2 levels higher than the parent. Also, mutations can be visible or not. So for example, you can get mutations in the stats, which will not show up. Also, with mutations, you do get color mutations, and so sometimes the color mutations will show up, other times they won't. Also, very important to know on this side of things is that if a dino has 6 color regions, you're more likely to get a visible color mutation, whereas where a dino that has only, say, 3 out of 6 color regions, it is possible that it may get a mutation in a color region that is not effective on that specific dino. Also, the reason that a mutated dino does gain 2 levels above its parent is simply because it gains 2 total mutations. One will be in the stats, the other one will be in the color. Obviously, as I said before, and it's very important to know, sometimes these will not show up despite the mutation occurring. So with that information in mind, I'm going to show you how to spot the dinos or the baby dinos that have had mutations added to their stats and color regions. Now, the reason I'm covering this particular topic is simply because when you are hatching a lot of baby dinos all in one go, it's going to be difficult to find the ones that have the mutations. But you can do that just by looking at their levels, by using this simple mathematics strategy that I'm going to show you. So I know that the base level of the parents when I started breeding for mutation was level 224 after tame. So on the patrilineal side, it will have gained 2 mutations. So that means that we just add the level to the mutations. That would be 2 times 2, which is the amount of levels it will have gained. That's 2 mutations times 2 levels per mutation. So if we add these up, it will mean that the baby, which has only obtained the information and stats from the father, should be a level of 228. Same thing on the matrilineal side. If it gets all of these stats from the matrilineal side, it will mean that the baby would come out at level 234. So these would be the level dinos that you would be looking for without any further mutations. These are what you should expect to get. And if you're breeding, say, these two, you will most frequently get one or the other sort of baby. Rarely you will get a mutation, and if you get a mutation from the father's side or from the mother's side, this is what you would be looking for. You'll know that the mutation has taken place when the dino or the baby dino has 2 levels above one of its parents. So if the lower level parent was level 228 and you see a dino with the level 230, you'll know that that is a mutation simply because it has 2 more levels. However, the mutation has been put in the baby that has copied the lower level dino's stats. So instead of being 228, the baby is now 230 because of the mutation. The same thing happens with the higher level dino. So instead of being 234, it will be 236. In this case, it will also have both mutations in both ancestry trees, as well as an added mutation in a stat and color. So with all this information in mind, let's hypothesize what that Super Rex would look like, both in terms of stats and what you should expect realistically to achieve. So let's assume that we started with a pair of Rexes that were at the base level of 224 without anything else on top. So no levels, nothing whatsoever, not even imprinting, yeah? Let's assume that a total of 40 mutations have occurred, of which 20 were HP mutations and 20 were damage mutations. These are both obviously on the same Rex and are on the patrilineal side as well as on the matrilineal side. This would of course result in a level 304 base Rex. If you were to fully level it up, it would gain a total of 73 levels, which would bring it up to level 377. Obviously, adding in all the points into the HP and damage would significantly increase what that Rex can do. However, going back to the base level of the fully mutated Rex, it would be level 304 and can easily achieve and exceed 20,000 base health, and it can get very close to 1000% damage. So this is a base Rex without any imprinting or leveling up whatsoever. So with those base stats, if you add imprinting and level it up, not necessarily to maximum, but as far as you have the patience, it will of course most definitely undoubtedly make a level 150 giga shit in its pants, because it will not stand a chance. It can, and I can tell you this from fact, it can exceed 100,000 HP once leveled up and imprinted, and I've done this on a HP Rex that only had about 10 mutations only in HP. So yes, it does not even need a decent saddle to put a Giga to shame. Okay, so with all that information out of the way, let's talk about leveling up your Dino or Rex and imprinting in terms of building your super mutated, super powerful Dino. Do these actually make a difference or add to the pool that you're already breeding? The answer is simply no. If you level up your Dino and then decide to breed it hoping to have the points that you invested in health or whatever stat you chose pass over to the baby, it will not happen. The same thing goes for imprinting. Whilst imprinting does increase the stats of the baby Dino, it does not get passed over to that Dino's baby. It will only take into consideration the base stats of that Dino after tame, along with the mutations that have been passed down, and absolutely nothing else. So to the question, is it worth leveling up and imprinting? The answer is yes and no. It really depends on what you want to do with that specific Dino. If you're going to use it for farming meat and just as an everyday use Dino, then yes, it's worth imprinting and leveling it up, as it will give you that extra bonus. If you're only going to use it to get you to the end result, and that is that super Dino, there's no point in bothering with imprinting, because it's a waste of time, as that is only a means of getting to that super Dino. Okay, so with that problem out of the way, let's talk about some other problems and strategies in terms of breeding to get the mutations. Now, whilst there are many ways of doing this, I am only going to cover the best, most simplest, most direct route of doing this, and that is you will want to breed your unmutated original base damage and HP male with the females until you get mutations, and then do that over and over again until you reach the cap limit of mutations on a specific stat. So say for example damage or HP, and then obviously start over and do that in the other stat that you want. It is by far the simplest, most effective way of doing it. It's also easy to keep track of, and a male, as I said before, is able to breed with multiple females, whereas a female after breeding does have a cooldown timer before it can breed again. So that of course means you will want the females to have the mutations as you breed your way to creating that perfect Dino. That, of course, means that by the end of that, you will have a male that has had all of its HP mutations on the matrilineal side, as well as a female that has had its mutations down the matrilineal side. If you were to breed these, you would end up with a total of 40 mutations down the matrilineal side, and as I said before, only 20 of them will be effective, the others will be passive, so that is a big no-no. However, there is another way around it. So obviously what happens is that when a mutation gets passed on from the father, it will be in the patrilineal side, and when it gets passed on from the mother, it will be in the matrilineal side. So with that in mind, one way around it is you can breed the male HP Rex that has the matrilineal mutations with a base HP and damage female until you obtain a male that has the mutations from the patrilineal side. Because what has basically happened, although the mutations were from the mothers, in the last baby it was the father that passed down the mutations, so therefore you will get a baby with the HP mutations in the patrilineal side. Once you have that, you can breed it with the matrilineal mutations to obtain the superpowered Rex or Dino that you are after. If you are going to breed the female to clear out the matrilineal heritage, you would then breed it with the base male Rex that had the HP and damage, the original one, until you obtain a male that has the damage in the matrilineal, and then breed that male with the base HP female and male until you get a male that has those mutations in the patrilineal tree before actually breeding those two end results to get your Super Rex. You can, of course, if you want, breed for multiple stats at the same time. So for example, you can breed for damage, HP and stamina, and once you get a mutation in any of these, continue that down the heritage. However, there is a bit of a problem with that, and it is quite complex to keep track of. The problem being that once you have got a dino that has both of those mutations, or actually all three of those mutations, it does not necessarily mean that that dino will pass all three of those mutations. So basically, by going down 3 simultaneous mutations, when you breed it back to your base Rex, there is a chance that only a single mutation may be carried over to the baby, which will have probably mutated again. If that is the case, you will have then a dino that has all the mutations counted for it. However, they have not taken effect because they've not been passed over. I have had that happen, and it just makes it that much harder to get all 3 mutations in one go to carry forward. Basically, by doing this, what you're doing is you are decreasing the chances of getting that mutation that you want to carry over because you're adding another variable into the equation. So the simplest way of doing it is to go down 3 separate skill trees and mutate those until you get the numbers that you want, and then combine them at the end. So in terms of imprinting, what does imprinting do? Well, every time you imprint on a baby dino, it will get a small buff to all of its stats or some selected stats. Obviously, when you imprint on a baby, it can do it in one of 3 or 4 ways. It will either ask to go for a walk with you, in which case you will then have it on follow and walk around until it has imprinted. It will ask for some sort of food. It can be a kibble of some sort, or it can be wyvern milk if you're doing a wyvern, or some sort of food specific to it, or it may ask for a cuddle. Obviously, when you fully imprint a dino, the bonuses added to the stats that are affected by imprinting will be a welcome addition and will make a big difference when you're leveling it up. In terms of breeding for mutations, as I said before earlier in the video, imprinting does not make a single difference, as the baby will only take the base stat of the dino after it has been tamed, along with the mutations and nothing else. So it is worth imprinting on that baby dino if you're going to use it for anything else but further breeding down the skill tree to get better stats. If you're going to use it for the purpose of obtaining that perfect dino, it is just a waste of time and kibble, as that will not be the final product. It is only worth imprinting on your final dino that has all the stats that you were going for, just to give it that added bonus. That is it for this video, folks. I did choose to go for a bit of a slide theme for this particular video, as breeding can be quite complex, so I hope that by using a slide idea it might help people understand what is happening and how to properly breed dinos. So if you folks have enjoyed this video, please do not forget to support me and the channel by hitting that like button, subscribe to the channel for more similar content, and if you have just subscribed, why not check out some of my other videos here on this channel? Who knows, you might just enjoy them. Also remember to hit that bell icon so that you get notified when I upload new content. And as a side note, I am going to be doing some breeding on one of my servers as a thing to pass time. And if you guys want to see that video and see what I said here put into application, please let me know down there below in the comment section, and I'm going to make videos for that if people ask for it. Also, for those interested in hanging out with me, you can always find me on the Sethtopia Discord. Links to this can be found down below in the video's description, as well as in a pinned comment. Until next time, stay safe, folks.